A very good morning. Today in this video we'll be having a discussion of the Hindu editorial page. Today is 23rd July 2020. There are 4 articles to be discussed. The first article is regarding the statue as a deeply contested heritage. This is regarding the statue of Edward Colston, a slave owner, recently tearing down in Bristol, UK. The next article is on ex-royal murder case. The justice is slow, but justice has done. And the next article is on India, Bhutan and China, the front, and how the discussions are going on. And the final article is on setting up a high court on Puducherry. These are the discussion for today's editorial page. If you are first to my channel, I request you all to subscribe so that you will get notified every video which I do daily. I am Prashant. I welcome you all to Wifise Study Karo. The first article is regarding the statues as a deeply contested heritage. Across the globe, people in large numbers have been toppling statues that stood as icons in their past oppression and continuing humiliation. The most recent example is tearing down in Bristol, UK of statues of Edward Colston, a slave owner. Not long ago, statues of imperial rulers were removed in India too. Once considered heritage symbols of the past celebrated, they are now viewed as best erased from the public memory. Not surprisingly, but because the heritage is almost contested, it is not naturally given but what humans imagine and construct. Or what we call heritage is not everything we happen to inherit from our ancestors. It necessarily involves a selection of what we presently consider as significant in this inheritance. Every society decides what is and isn't a heritage. Since every collective decision involves politics and construction of heritage too is deeply political, a field of power is not among ruling elites alone but also all the people whose concern in it. The past and present. Why care for heritage? Because it contributes to and enhances our collective self-understanding. Heritage affirms our collective identity, a source of pride. It is important also because it is a past history which is continuously brought to life by artifacts integrated with our lived collective experience. It is a part of past that we live and with which we live, and because it is directly touches identity, it evokes a strong feeling. Heritage construction involves ethics, and it is valued past societies, intangible, preserved, say in narratives, music or performances, but also tangible, materially embodied in monuments and statues. Not a value neutral term, heritage is started with ethical evaluation, a judgment what is worth remembering and preserving. Conversely, it pushes some features of our history into this background, forgetting or dispassionate historical reflection integral to the construction of heritage. Then, in an assessment of what must be remembered and forgotten, what calls for respect and celebration, and what is a stain remembered only in the prevented future. The Rajghat is not only a place where we remember Gandhiji but also where we mourn his assassination by his own countrymen. Heritage is a way of addressing and rectifying past wrongs. The Holocaust Memorial in Berlin and Washington's Vietnam Memorial are both gestures towards repatriation, monuments of public apology. The reactions in diverse societies is that in complex, stratified and diverse societies, the part of the history that self-alarming to some can be a source of self-denial to others. The same thing which provides recognition and pride to some ignites misrecognition and shame in others, be offensive, hurtful and disrespectful. Even when it does not do such things, it is simply not to speak to them. Public display of heritage of only few of the cause of profound estrangement and expulsion of others. Heritage is often a link to cultural dominations that invites resistance. It follows that heritage is that which brings comfort or unease, to which people are either attracted or repulsed. Whatever symbolic power is unevenly distributed, artifacts that manifest that accumulated power provoke passionate disposition. It is surprising that the statue of a slave owner or a member of an imperial ruling elite provokes indignation among those who were formerly enslaved or colonized. Likewise, in the societies where caste hierarchies abound, the continual denial of public recognition of Dalit symbols lead to demands of greater inculcation of their heritage, and when, after struggles for recognition, Ambedkar statues finally make their way into public spaces, why would they indeed not outraged if Ambedkar statue is vandalized? This inescapable public is the not hidden way or installed in special parks and museums which were restricted access but installed in public squares at crossroads, unavoidable public and open places. Then who then decides what will be the such public display and why? As the differences are inevitable, as indeed attempts to influence and pressure key decision makers, how should such a collective judgments be reached? How must differences to be prevented from turning into interminable disputes, even a violence? To see statues of oppressors being torn down in understandable, but why this reach is tipping point? Why not to decide what to do within them after collective deliberations among all stakeholders? Why there is a level of heritage, a matter of long-lasting importance society. So while the politics around the heritage is unavoidable, it is not best to have a dialogue, consultation or deliberation among the people at the lodge, included into the artists, philosophers, historians, architects and alert guardians of the cultural memory. The Mahatma and Mohandas take an example of Gandhi statue on account of their obvious global significance, complexity, since they are surrounded by the controversy, the current reverence or relevance. Some strongly feel that the Mahatma must be of the pedestal because of his alleged collusion with empire, or more or so of the racism. And now Gandhiji, neither born as a Mahatma nor became of overnight. He began life with an ordinary man, a child of a social milieu with a straightforward middle-class aspirations. It is easy to imagine him inheriting caste prejudices in his childhood after arrival in London to study law, imbibing the prejudice of the colonial masters to see himself close to educated British elites than Indian peasants or untouchables. The real question worth addressing is whether he continued living this way, consolidating his racist and casteist views and struggle to ghettoism that prejudices. And not just superficially, but by confronting his deepest self, the kind of bad person he had been, and then transforming it into something altogether different. For all accounts, Gandhiji struggled with the demons of his life and eventually became a Mahatma, that he has a global figure of immense ethical significance, admired by his adversities, inspiring great men like Martin Luther King, even Nelson Mandela. The statues erected globally honor and celebrate the struggle embodied by this self-reflective Mahatma Gandhi and not Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, the upper caste Gujarati or a barrister loyal to the British. Those who want to demolish his statues are simply going by an early fragment of his life than he himself disowned with a great effort. There can be nothing more absurd or tragic. Imagine a statue of Valmiki torn down because he pursued a criminal past. Imagine further the fate of the statues of all great men of the past that were sole ground when they fail. This is not the way, but the general lesson to be drawn in this here. This decision to preserve or remove the statues cannot be based on the current stereotypes of historical figures, narrow standards and political correctness that highlight a general flaw characteristic of entire era, but must instead rely on complex collective judgment of persons' overall contribution to social, political and intellectual life. Gandhiji, in his views, passes this test, so the Curzon or the Rhodes do not. So we must carefully avoid the anarchism in our judgments in the past, bringing some stance at the time when the statues are being brought down. Why not talk about bringing some up? So the puzzled and persistent obsession of the political power, even when it is used for a good purpose. This is regarding the preserving and removing of persons' statues must rely on shared judgments of his contribution in a collective life. The next article is regarding justice, slow but sure. This is regarding the Rajasthan ex-royals murder case. It is often the police men involved in shooting people dead and seeking to cover up the incident as an armed encounter are convicted for murder. The verdict of Sessions Court in Mathura, sentencing 11 police personnel, including a DSP, to the life of murdering Raja Man Singh, the royal ex-royal, the head and the princely state of Bhatarpur in Rajasthan, and 2 of his associates in 1985 is one such a rare incident. While welcoming this, a rare blow of accountability and justice is inevitable that one must lament the tardiness of his criminal justice system. Even accounting for a usual and expected delay in prosecuting police personnel, the 35 years that took the case to complete the trial stage is further evidence that the justice moves in slow motion in this country. There are also several long delayed trials that span generations. The trial of the men who assassinated Railway Minister Ellen Mishra in 1975 ended in conviction in 2014, 39 years later, and also the Hashimpura case, which is 40 Muslims were massacred in 1987, ended with an en masse acquittal in 2015, but the Delhi High Court restored some faith in judicial process by slapping a lifelong prison term for 16 men 3 years later. So while the convictions in a heinous crimes ought to be welcomed regardless of the long delay, those criminal laws will explain how for finding old and infirm people guilty after letting them enjoy the decades of impunity really serves the cause for the justice. Fortunately, the delay did not affect the outcome in this case, but does not mean that there is no truth of old axiom and delay amounts the denial of justice. The election time murder of Raja Man Singh on February 21, 1985 was initially thought to be passed off as an encounter. The previous day, the titular head, a 7 times independent legislator, had apparently felt insulted on hearing that his family flag has been damaged by the Congress supporter. In a fit of rage, he drove his jeep into the stage, put up the Congress chief minister Shiv Charan rally, and went into the damaged helicopter used by the chief minister. The next day, and the Raja was his way to surrender. His chief was surrounded by a party led by the DSP, and other eyewitnesses said that they fired at the vehicle occupants, killing Man Singh and his 2 elderly associates. Later, the top police officials admitted that the former ruler was not armed. Then the Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi asked Chief Minister to step down. The investigation was transformed to Central Bureau of Investigation. Later, the Supreme Court shifted the trial in Mathura in Uttar Pradesh. It may not be known in Congress leadership conspired with the police, but the incident remains a blot on the party's record in 1980s. This is regarding the conviction of the police passing off the murder as an encounter, and welcome though it is delayed. The next article is regarding the under front on India, Bhutan and China. For the third time since the early June, China on Tuesday repeated its claims that the Bhutan's eastern boundary was disputed area with Bhutan. Its first claim is that UNDP-led Global Environment Facility Conference that held on June 2nd to 3rd, when the Chinese representative tried to stop funding the Takteng Forest Reserve in Bhutan's eastern district, which abuts Arunachal Pradesh Tang district. The claim was surprising for several reasons. China had not objected earlier to funding provided by the Sanctuary of Global Environment Facility, that is GEF. Secondly, the Tashing area does not share a boundary with India. Finally, whatever the origins of the claims, Chinese officials have raised the eastern boundary in 24 rounds of the talks with Bhutan that began in 1984. Thus far, talks have been only about the Pasm Lung and the Jark Lung valleys in Bhutan's north and Doklam and other partial lands on the west that come up with a tri-junction point with India. On Wednesday, China referred to the package solution for the dispute that it was believed to refer to an offer made in 1990s to swap the northern and western areas, something Bhutan rejected given Indian concerns. Despite Beijing's repeated statements on the boundary issues, both Thimphu and New Delhi have chosen not to react in a rash manner. For Bhutan, the Chinese claims may be seen as a pressure tactics, an attempt to hurry the scheduling of the next meeting or gain the leverage in the boundary talks. For India, that is already dealing with Chinese aggression across the line of actual control. This is regarding the India, Bhutan and China. They have complete understanding on dealing with the Chinese claims. This is another friend. The next article is regarding setting up a high court for Puducherry. In 1962, when Puducherry was merged with India, the jurisdiction of the Madras High Court was extended to it. After several decades, in 2017, the Puducherry legislation unanimously resolved to have its own High Court, and the Madras High Court was formed in July 7, 2017. Prior to this, in April 2017, the Puducherry Bar Association is passed a resolution seeking establishment of High Court. In August 2019, while addressing a state-level conference on the legal services of motor accidents mediation cell, Puducherry Chief Minister Narayan Swamy said a bench of Madras High Court at Puducherry on the lines that the one set up in Madurai was felt need and sought for the Supreme Court. There is sound reason, so why should there a need for High Court in Puducherry? The Puducherry government spends exorbitant sums of money towards the expenses of large High Court with not much on the population. This amount can be reduced to less than the quarter of the amount spent with a much smaller High Court for Puducherry. In fact, according to the Constitution, when the common High Court is established for more than one state, administrative expenses have to be paid only to the consolidated fund or the state which is the principal seat of the High Court is situated. However, this provision is breached with respect to Puducherry, which shares a disproportionately exorbitant expenses with Tamil Nadu. On the other hand, administrative expenses of the High Court and Union Territories shall be drawn from the Consolidated Fund of India under the Constitution. A Puducherry High Court is 4 or 5 judges can ensure a quick action of the pendency of the matters of the High Court matters, and at least at Puducherry in the All India Judges Association and others versus Union of India, Supreme Court observed that the time has now come for the protecting one of the pillars of Constitution, namely the judicial system, by directing increase in the first instance in judge strength from existing ratio of 10.5 or 13 per 10 lakh people to 50 judges or 10 lakh people. This was also discussed in the Law Commission of India reported titled Arrest and Backlog, Creating Additional Judicial Man or Woman Power in 2014. However, as 2016, the ratio of only 12 judges for 1 million population. A data comparison says that the number of cases filed disposed at the Puducherry in 2010 is 4 times higher than the number of at Sikkim, Manipur and also in Goa with the high courts put together. Therefore, the size of the population and territory is irrelevant. A bigger the state have more judges and staff, smaller states have less numbers of these. The data also collected by the writer shows that in terms of the number of cases filed in 2010, the figures for Sikkim are around 1117, Manipur is around 637, Goa 4000 and Puducherry around 24,000. In terms of the numbers, the cases decided, the numbers are around 24,000 in Puducherry. Similarly, the memorandum provided by All India Bar Association to the Chief Minister in 2017 shows that the number of cases disposed from Puducherry is 3 times more than the number of cases disposed from High Courts of Tripura, Manipur, Meghalaya and Sikkim put together in 2016. The presence of the Constitutional Court in the capital cities asked a check in the executive and legislature. Even the exercise of the safeguarding fundamental rights involves travel, time and expense. Several people often cite that the litigants from the Western District travel the lifelong distance to Chennai. It defies logic why litigants from Puducherry need to be benefited because their other litigants not benefited, especially when the constitution permits Puducherry to have its own court under Article 241. Aiding statehood demand, a High Court of Puducherry will also strengthen voices seeking statehood. The constitution enables establishment of a legislature and council of ministers for creating union territories with the intent of providing the statehood gradually. This is interestingly, though in 2017 resolution, the legislature sees High Court authorities have to multiple occasions spoken at the bench of Madras High Court. There is a popular notion that the establishment of the bench of High Court is easier and economical as against the reality pointed out this article. Therefore, the territorial administration should have a clarity on this point. The Puducherry government should now form a committee to prepare a comprehensive report and draft bill backing its proposal and forwarding it to central government. In this, nominated lieutenant governor and the elected chief minister must work in tandem to set up a high court in Puducherry. This is regarding the discussion of the editorial page, and there are also some of the few good articles from the Oped page regarding the puncturing and culture of silence. India needs a pro-constitution, pro-facts, pro-inclusive, and regarding Gandhi project analogous to Lincoln project in US. And also some of the articles are Jammu and Kashmir people, citizens or subjects. It is nearly a year since they have had a 4G internet and the Supreme Court had done a little to enforce its writs. This is regarding the internet issue in the Jammu and Kashmir, which have been prohibited and still now it is not reformed. And the next article is transforming higher education. This is the time to bridge between 12 universities and curriculum and actual job requirements, and also leading to ideal learning outcomes and big opportunities. That's the end of article discussion of the Hindu paper. If you are new to my channel, I request you all to subscribe and hit a bell icon so that you will be notified whenever I upload a video. Thank you. Have a great day.